You're listening to episode number 1 of The Grow with our special guest, global marketing and brand expert Randy Helou. Now, your host, Better For You Media founder, Peter Groverman.
Are we live? We're good. Randy, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, Peter.
Or I guess good. What time is it there?
Pleasure.
Right now? And where are you?
It's 25 past 6 p.m.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you.
Evening, last day of the week.
That's excellent. Randy, you want to give a brief introduction to yourself, and then I can kind of hop in and fill the audience on who we are, what we're doing?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So I've been in the corporate world for over 2 decades. I started my career early on with Shell, Adidas, moved on to other brands like the Walt Disney Company, Breitling, Dubai Parks and Resorts, among others. In my career, I've held both senior marketing and commercial positions and done so in multiple industries, which has made me a multidisciplinary executive. I'm data driven, I'm customer focused, and I know the Middle East customer landscape and the regional landscape like the back of my hand. I'm passionate about brands, I'm passionate about people. I'm an avid advocate of diverse teams and customer centric cultures. I have an MBA from the London Business School, majoring in marketing and strategy. I'm married, and with my better half, we are raising a wonderful son and daughter, and kept constantly busy by a little pup as well.
Awesome. And you're based in Dubai. Now,
Based in Dubai since 2006. Yeah.
I got to tell you, one of the most interesting things I've discovered about you is that you're so culturally understanding. You have a good idea of your position and kind of an appreciation for the American culture. But correct me if I'm wrong, you've never been to the U.S.
I've never set foot to the US of A. I will be soon, I hope, but never done so. However, I think the soft power of the United States is not to be underestimated. You guys export your culture very, very well, so you've given us every chance to really absorb the culture. And actually, my name comes from a Coca-Cola ad. It's in the mid '70s, and the ad had Randy and Sue, and so my dad decided to call me Randy based on liking the name in that ad. So
That's
a
awesome.
little anecdote for you there.
Oh, that's so cool. Very cool. All right, well, let's hop right into it. Your background is what caught my attention initially, what caught Abu's initial attention, being in the position to handle all the marketing initiatives for Disney for the Middle East is just an incredible honor. And having grown your business into this consulting gig and having just a total understanding and commanding understanding of the Middle Eastern market is just an amazing vantage point and very unique. Can you tell us a little bit about what started you on this career path, and was the path just destined, or was this more by chance?
Yeah. So I don't believe in chance. I don't believe in coincidences. Things are meant to be, and you are wherever you are at any point in time in your life because you're bound to be there. Um, my career started with Shell, with branding. I've always been fascinated with branding, advertising, and the smart creative idea in businesses and brands. And it always fascinated me that brands were able to create short stories and short movies in 30 seconds ads and really move you and get to get on board on those brands. So um, I loved the work with brands, but I also loved how brands created livelihoods. And brands are built around people, for people, but also brands create organizations and brands create companies. And that's why I think I'm here today, not only as a brand focused marketeer and a customer obsessed marketeer, but also someone who can make sure that those brands succeed commercially. And that path has taken me via Disney. Of course, that's sort of the highlight of my career. But I've also worked with brands like Adidas. I've worked with multinational organizations based here out of the region, regional organizations as well, in both brand and commercial positions. And so, sort of being on both parts of the playing field, that dual language that has afforded me over the years, I think puts me in a place where I can really add value via my consultancy, as you mentioned, and for brands like Rovara.
So let's talk a little bit about that dual language that you mentioned here. I mean, for an American or a global consumer who doesn't understand the Middle Eastern market so well, in Dubai, you're brought up speaking what languages and what is that? What do the Dubai people speak?
So, as a person of Lebanese origin, I speak both English and Arabic as mother tongues, and I also speak French fluently. And this is not uncommon in the region here. Dubai, as well as many parts of the Middle East, are very multicultural. We're melting pots. You would send your kid to school in Dubai today, and you have over 100 nationalities in that school.
Mm,
You get to meet people from all corners of the earth, not only meet them in social circles, but also meet them and work with them. So, in any organization that you come to and work in Dubai, you'll realize that you have people from all over the world, from Latin America, from Northern Europe, from Asia, from India, from the Middle East, from North Africa, from Africa. So, it's a true melting pot. It's a true representation, in place representation of the global village that the world is today.
wow, that's fascinating. Um, and I guess that really kind of excels you in the region to be competitive on the global landscape.
You have to. Um, you cannot survive or have any impact in the Middle East, especially in Dubai, Saudi, the two major hubs in the Gulf region. You cannot really move the needle here unless you have a truly global understanding of how the world works, because your consumers come from all over the world. So there is such a thing as called as the Middle East consumer. But when you look at what constitutes the Middle East consumer, it's a melting pot of consumers from all over the world, and preferences from all over the world, and cultures from all over the world. So, having spent 19 years in the Middle East, because I was in Kuwait before moving to Dubai, over the years, you build that muscle, that multicultural muscle, and a muscle of openness. People who live and work in the Middle East are curious by nature. We're hardworking by nature. We're always seeking to meet and to be met. And you'll have, an entire Spanish family spending Christmas at your house, and then on Christmas Day you'll go and you'll spend Christmas Day with people from Kerala, and then during Eid you get invited to a family of coming from Egypt, and then during the other Eid you go and you spend it with a family coming from Tunisia, but you also have Brits and Americans and Australians around the table as well. And unless you really exercise that international muscle of yours, you can't really make any impact here in the region. So it's really essential for you to be a multinational person if you want to really make an impact and move the needle in the Middle East.
Now you mentioned Eid.
Mm.
You want to expand that, and for people who don't understand that concept, you want to unpack it for
Yeah, of
us?
course, of course. So the beauty of living in this region is that you get to mix and live with people from different religious backgrounds as well. So we are a Christian family. However, there's in the Muslim religion there are two Eids. There is the Eid al-Fitr, which is the end of the month of Ramadan, and then there's the Eid al-Adha, which is sort of the Passover for the Muslim religion. And both are called Eids, both are called feasts and reasons to celebrate, and both involve families getting together and spending time with one another. We also have Diwali, we also have Holi, which are the Indian festivities. And the beauty of it here is that our kids and us as families, we get to celebrate every one of those occasions across the year. So there's really never a dull month here. There's always something to celebrate with someone.
That's awesome. Really, really exciting. We got to witness Ramadan last month when we were over in Dubai, and certainly the fasting is pretty exceptional. I'm not sure I'd have the willpower, but definitely is you can't miss it. You can't miss the people abiding by the religion, and as definitely ingrained as part of the culture there. I guess more about you. Can you tell us a little bit? So when you got your start at Shell, like what attracted you to the media space and the marketing space? Was there like one commercial? I mean, you got your name from a Coca-Cola commercial. So again, to your point, this is definitely not by chance. It's definitely meant to be. But what kind of inspired you and got you motivated to choose this path?
It's the impact that you can have on people, that brands can have on people, by telling stories, by using design elements, using visual cues together with word cues, using music, using multimedia platforms. whether it's statics or today in virtual reality. All of this really excites me because brands then use this as a language and it communicates with you on much deeper levels than just your visual and your conscious level. That brands communicate with you on a subconscious level as well, and they get to move you. Um, I've always been attracted to film and cinema. And if you look at 30-second ads, I mean, one of my favorite things every year is to wait for the Super Bowl ads to air to go on YouTube. And I'll watch every single one of them religiously because I just love the amount of creativity, the fun, and how much impact a 30-second ad can have on you. Shell gave me that opportunity to work on the branding. We were introducing the brand in the country, so it was to rebrand a lot of service stations and car service stations and gas stations into the Shell branding. It was also training the staff, making sure that the brand was looked great, that we were on guideline, etc. And come to think of it, that's 20 years ago, 22 years ago. It really was something important, and that has developed throughout my work. So I've gone through the stages of my life where I was rooting for my own growth and my own success and my own climbing the corporate ladder kind of thing. However, as time passed and as I am where I am today, my focus has shifted outwardly. My focus has become on the people that I work with. I've always loved to mentor people, to coach people, to lead people, and it's a natural gift that I have. However, in the professional level, I'm now metaphorically standing on the sidelines, of the games, um, courtside and cheering for my team, or standing in the ring corner giving them tips on how to win their personal fights and battles at work. So for me, leadership today is the empowerment of others, and that's what really inspires me to wake up every morning. It's being of service to the teams that I lead and to the people that I work with.
Is there a global business leader that you are influenced by or has inspired you
Yeah,
most?
yeah. Well, get ready for some cliches. Yeah.
And do you have to say Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum?
Um, Infinitely inspiring person. I do not have to see it, but if I do, I would say it with absolute genuineness. Sheikh Mohammed in not only him but the entire leadership of the region here is so inspiring in their unrelenting quest um, to bring their people and to bring the people of the UAE and Saudi Arabia and the region um, up to develop not only economies but to develop the people themselves. A lot has been, how can I say, um, invested in the development of people, and they continue to invest in the development of people. We'll come to that. But the amount and the extent to which the leadership of the UAE's, so Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, um, the ruler of Dubai, and the people that he has appointed around him, ministers and cabinet members, the the amount of care and the amount of vision that they show to the country, but also to everyone who lives in the country, and I'll come to that in a few moments, um, continues to inspire us on a daily basis. Yes, decisions are made very quickly, but decisions are made not only at speed, but with immense impact as well for the benefit of the people and for the benefit of the country. Dubai was born yesterday. There are many time lapse videos on YouTube and others where you'd see Dubai in the 80s time lapsed all the way till today, and the growth and development of all sectors, whether it's real estate, or manufacturing or services, or trade, or business services, they've grown exponentially over the past years, and this was enabled and driven and inspired by the leadership of the UAE across the board. Um, Today, when you see that a leader has their heart bent, as you mentioned, on running the country, and having only the well-being and the welfare of the country on their heart, it truly moves you. Um, yes, democracy within the Western world does tend to make things slower. And with the way that the region and especially the UAE is governed, it does away with all personal agendas, it does away with all egos, it does away with all these things which would normally hinder. the best interest of the public to be met. When decisions are made here, they're made with one thing and one thing only: the benefit of the people of the UAE and the UAE. They're not made for the benefit of political parties or people who want to run for elections every 4 years, or people who want to have majorities in senates, or whatever it is. Um, and this is why the whomever has come and lived in the UAE has really and put their back into it. It requires a lot of work. Has really thrived in this country. They've really made something out of themselves. And what is truly amazing as well is that this is not only so the land of opportunity that the UAE is not only for the Emiratis and the local population as well, but it's also for the expats who live and work hard and produce here. And this is yet another extremely inspiring trait of the leadership here is their welcome and their warm uh, invitation to people coming and say, come help us build Dubai as well. You can build yourselves while building Dubai as well. And there are many families who have been here 3, 4 generations, 30, 40, 50 years, come here with half nothing, worked their socks off, and eventually became people of note because they grew their businesses and their lives here in the UAE.
That is truly inspiring. What other business leaders have impacted the way you operate?
Yeah, as I mentioned, they're cliches. So, look, I love Steve Jobs' formula for creativity and all-out action taking. Steve Jobs or Apple did not go out to people and do any research before they created something like the iPad. Or they did not go out and do research on people who are using Motorola's and Nokia mobile phones and say, how would you like to develop your mobile phone, or etc. They're so innovative, and they're so single-mindedly focused on innovation, that really it inspires not only me but scores of people around the world. I love Elon Musk's all-out ballsy approach to business. I don't think Elon Musk knows much about where he's going, but he just goes it. He wings it, and he knows that it is going to work in one way or another, and he will make it work in one way or another. And although talking about people to put people on Mars, it's the process to get people to Mars that's producing so many innovations along the way. Um, I also admire people like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett for me is a living proof that consistency and doing things well over a period of time really does pay off. We all see what the NFT and meta everything and the crypto madness has done over the past few months. People's entire life savings have been wiped out because they went all in into crypto. Um, well, yes, it is a nascent, still kind of California gold rush, wild wild west kind of thing. But um, I admire people like Warren Buffett who say, what, let's do things quietly, let's do things slowly, and let's look at growth as something that's exponential and not explodes from one day to another like the price of Bitcoin would. Another duo that I really like is Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg. And I always love when they're up on TV, and the meme, as the meme goes, guess who of those two has done time, and we all know who of the two did time. But the thing is, Martha Stewart is such an amazing brand, and for me, it speaks a lot about the way that brands live and breathe. Um, if you have a brand that has a lot of love from its audience, your audience will forgive you your trespasses. You can mess up as a person, you can mess up as a leader, but when people love your brand, they love your brand. They'll forgive you. They'll let that go. But it's just amazing how Martha Stewart was able to take it in her stride and come out of it and go on those roast shows. And who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that uh, you know a symbol like Martha Stewart would associate herself with a highly successful musician like Snoop Dogg. So again, there isn't one person, one global influencer who I say, wow, that's the epitome of what I want to be as a person. But I pick and choose from different people, and we can go on. I mean, Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, old Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG for me is a massive, massive figure, and a massive source of inspiration. And the list goes on and on.
Randy, can you talk a little about why someone should visit Dubai? If they're on the fence, why should they just buy a ticket and go?
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people to interact, to really reach out and learn about outside of what their world is, and there's a lot to be learned. There's some beautiful cultures here. Um, remember that meal that we all had together at the Lebanese restaurant, right? It's that's just not even the tip of the iceberg of how much cultural richness exists in this part of this world. Whether it's the arts, and the arts is across the board. Is the painting, the music, the poetry, the prose, the food, the customs and the mores and all the things that we do. It's a beautiful world out there, and I think what you're echoing is a very loud call to people who haven't really gone out and seen the world to actually go out and see the world. We fall very much victim to the, you know, go to school in the earlier part of your life, work your head off the second part of your life, and then retire in, California for the rest. Life is so much more about that. Life is so much more than a 9 to 5 job. Although 9 to 5 jobs don't exist nowadays, it's more 9 to 9, 6 days a week. Um, there's much more to life than that. But and yeah, we can get all philosophical around this, but true.
Very true, Randy. Let's talk about Disney. What was that experience like? Leading their marketing in the Middle East?
Working with Disney is also working with Marvel, is also working with Star Wars when the acquisitions happened. And I joined Disney in 2010. I was the fifth person on board here in the Middle East office. And when I left, we were almost 40 people, 40. Um, we grew the brand and all the lines of business that we operated in here, we grew them exponentially. Um, and if you want to ask me what is the coolest thing, we did a lot of really cool things here, Comic Cons. So um, we befriended and helped the team that started the Middle East Film and Comic Con. You can look it up, Middle East Film and Comic Con on YouTube. Look at the 2014, 2015. We absolutely dominated those with Star Wars and with Marvel. We had AR experiences. We had props from the Star Wars movie that was filmed in Abu Dhabi brought into the Comic Con so people can actually see the props and interact with them. Um, but by far the coolest thing that I've done with Disney is we filmed a lightsaber sparring because Jedi don't fight, so it was a Jedi sparring with lightsabers, but on top of the Burj Khalifa. The Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world, 828 meters, um, and we filmed uh, two Jedi sparring on the inside of the Burj, on the outside of the Burj. We filmed them with helicopters, an entire film crew, the same film crew that filmed Mission Impossible 5. That is by far the coolest thing that I think we executed here. It's on YouTube. You can go in, lightsaber, Burj Khalifa.
This seems like an incredibly complicated undertaking. How did you pull it off?
Um, we had a lot of fun. So the Jedi that you see are actually we shipped them in or flew them in from Sweden. These two artists are the ones who do the motion capture for the Star Wars games. The lightsabers they're carrying are made in Wales, next to the UK up there, by a custom lightsaber maker. Um, the costumes they're wearing were flown in from Disney from Orlando. The film crew is a local Dubai film crew. The helicopter is a very special helicopter. That's the only one that's allowed to fly around the Burj Khalifa at this distance. Um, it was a really really cool stunt, and it's great that it's going to live online for as long as it's up there. But it was a really really cool thing. We shot it over 2 nights. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but eventually we got to it.
Randy, you've had an extremely fulfilling professional life. Can you share any career advice that has served you well over the years?
You get moved around in life, and as long as you keep an open mind and a curious mind, wherever life throws you, there is something there for you. I always remember the story of Steve Jobs, who took a typesetting course because he wanted to be with this girl in class. He had no idea. I think it was a typesetting course. You can look it up and correct me if I'm wrong. But the key is that he went and took that course just because he wanted to be with that girl. Well, eventually, the Macintosh word processing software was one of the best ones and was being used by everyone because Steve Jobs used his typesetting skills in creating a font which was much better than any font used on any computer machine at that time. And so it's really keeping that curiosity and state of open mind that moved me from Adidas to Breitling, which is the watch brand, the Swiss watch brand, and then from Breitling back into the entertainment world with Dubai Parks and Resorts, which is sort of the Disney world of the Middle East. There are three beautiful parks, very, very high quality parks here. But where I am today, running my consultancy, I couldn't be here today had I not been in all those seemingly unconnected places in the past. Um, but in these places, this is what I learned: the multiple industries. This is where I learned the commercials that make brands come true, but also the marketing that makes brands come true. This is where I learned, global best practices with Disney and with Adidas. This is where I learned a lot of things that bring me where I am today. So, for anyone who's hearing this and who's thinking, should I have a single path career or not? I'm the kind of person who says, you know what, try as many industries as you can and be in as many places as you can, because it really teaches you a lot. And being a Swiss knife today even is even more relevant than it ever was. Um, I'll tell you a small story. My kids go to an IB school, so an International Baccalaureate Curriculum School. They call it IB, and they teach things quite differently from any curriculum, whether it's British or American or whatever. And so I went to them and I was saying, guys, I don't see my kids doing a lot of homework. I don't see the rigor in the physics and the chemistry and the mathematics, etc., etc. And they said, Randy, the research shows that when your son graduates, almost 50% of the jobs that these kids will take do not even exist today. So when I was in university, if somebody came and told me, I'm going to be an app developer, I'd have looked at him and gone, excuse me, what the hell is an app developer? What the hell is an app? What the hell is an iPhone? Um, but today, our kids are going to be living in that world, in a world which for us today is largely unknown. And so, what they teach them in the IB system are things which will help them adapt into that new world, which is, you know, analytical skills, thinking and researching, understanding and analyzing. Those are the skills that will take them into any future, whatever that future looks like. And I give this example because in business is exactly the same thing. The more polyvalent you are, the more of a polyglot you are, the more of a multi-purpose person you are today, the better chances of success you have in the future that's coming forward. Just look at the simple future, which is a mix of Web3 and blockchain, and what that is empowering. Web3, which is we're in very, very early stages of Web3, still a long way to go. Technologies are not even there to take us there. But Web3 and what blockchain is doing is they're creating the possibility of meta worlds and meta universes or metaverses, which means that they're taking personal human experiences from the real world back into the digital world. Now, if you're a marketeer, you'll only understand part of that. If you're a commercial person, you will only understand a part of that. If you're an IT professional, you'll only understand a part of that. But the more as a person you've been through different experiences and done different things in your life, the more capable you are of understanding this new future which is coming on, and the more obsolete you get. So my message is, the more things you can do, the more variety you can include in your career, by all means, do it.
There have been a lot of changes for global brands over the last couple of years between COVID and supply chain disruptions. And how does this all impact the future of marketing?
That's a really good question, and it's a question which I think we could split into two. Um, Let me first talk about the disruption of the global supply chain practices, and then move into what the future of marketing is in the next 1 or 2 years max, because further than that becomes too blurry for anyone to give any intelligent opinions about it. The What happened in the world of supply chain is that we finally realized how fragile that mountain of cards or house of cards was. Pandemic came in, disruption to lines, not enough truckers, not enough operators on cranes and ports. And what that did is it collapsed an entire house of cards. Um, Today, the well, it's redressed a little bit, but the average cost of shipping a container is about 7.5K, down from 10 something, but still up from 1.5, 1.7 earlier on. And so we're all trying to go back and put the pieces together to try to understand what really happened. Not for the sake, only for the sake of understanding what really happened, but for the sake of, okay, so how do we fix this? How can we move this forward? And that has presented a number of challenges for everyone within the value chain. So whether you are an importer of raw materials, or you are a manufacturer using those raw materials, or you are a product creator who's trying to ship your product to somewhere, to another territory or another market, or if you're an importer or if you're a distributor within the market, the entire chain has been completely broken and disrupted. And so, having established that we'll never really go back to the normal that we were at. Um, and one thing which will exacerbate this is the fact that shipping companies today are working on a 50 to 60% profit margin, and that's up from 8 to 10%. They're the ones who are really making the no pun intended, boatloads of money out of this whole dilemma. And money is addictive. And so those shipping companies are not really going to back off those profits very easily. So that tells you, if you look at the totality of things, that tells you that things are not going to be back to normal very, very quickly. So what do we do? What we do is we start sourcing locally. We vertically integrate everything that we do. So if in the past you're outsourcing part of your manufacturing or part of your recipes or part of your ingredients list or part of whatever that you're doing, you're outsourcing it to another country or another region to save costs. Now you're looking at more integrating, more locally and more centrally, optimizing shipping. The availability of quick, easy movement of containers um, didn't really push us to be extremely efficient in our shipping practices. Today, you can ship and you can optimize your shipping. Another tough one, and that's more of a pipe dream, I imagine, than anything else, is really weaning our customers off the "I want it right now" nonsense. Because what the Amazon and Amazons of this world have done is they've created a world where you click a button and an hour later that thing is at your door. I'm sorry, but that's not sustainable. That's not sustainable. Um, that is putting immense pressure on warehouse workers, on resources, on time, on costs. So the customers have to give a little bit. Customers have to give, and so weaning them off the whole "I want it now" um, scenario will go a very, very long way. We have to plan better. We have to decentralize, um, and a lot of brands are going to have to raise the price bar collectively. Today, you pay very cheap for a lot of things that have a lot of value built into them. I'm speaking about electronics. I'm speaking about certain food types. I'm speaking about clothing. We are used to paying very little money for things which naturally should cost more. And so industry is raising the bar, and people really rationalizing the way they spend will go a long way towards making sure that we live sustainably and we live in a way that doesn't spell our doom very, very soon. And last but not least is as I mentioned, is responsible consumption. We consume, the ease of consumption is so prevalent nowadays that consumption needs to be rationalized. So, quick recap: source locally, integrate vertically, optimize your shipping, wean customers off unrealistic expectations, such as 30-minute shipping. Plan your production better and your sales better. Decentralize wherever you can. Um, Raise the price bar for things to become a bit more rational, if you want, and consume more responsibly, and ask consumers to consume more responsibly. If you look at how brands are growing nowadays, especially in marketing, let's focus on marketing. Um, Marketers relied very heavily on cookies and tracking, and so for retargeting, remarketing, etc., and everything that went with it. Now we're being weaned off those cookies. We're being weaned off all those permissions that we took for granted from people, and people are able to opt out a lot of those permissions. And so what's really coming to the forefront of the marketing practices is what in the first place was building brands. And here I talk about communities. Communities are going to be the future of marketing. And communities are built by creators. And brands, being part of those communities, collaborating with those creators, will be thriving and will be growing. Now, any brand jumping on any community is not going to work. So the word authenticity, which was thrown around, you know, like a cliche that's some tomorrow, authenticity has to be part and parcel of what those brands are doing and how they have to add value to those communities. They have to be genuinely connected to those communities, and those creators have to really see the brands upping their game to be part of those communities. Today, if you look at where platforms like TikTok and Snapchat are, their growth trajectories are way steeper than Instagram or Facebook. It's because those communities and the creators of those communities are really putting their back into creating the content that they create. Every 15-second video or 30-second video online takes as much production time as a mini episode. And this is being done by regular creators. These are not large multimedia companies. But why those are working is because they're extremely relevant to the communities in which they are part of and the communities that they have built. So brands that can come and add value and also up their creative game to really match those platforms where they want to interact with those communities, this is where the brands are going to be growing in the future. So what's going to dominate the headlines of marketing is digital creators and digital communities.
In terms of global trade headlines, what kind of role do you see Dubai playing in the future? Can it become a true global hub?
So Dubai has always been a trade hub. Dubai has always been a trade hub. It was a trade hub in the, I don't know, in a few millennia ago for spices, and then it was a trade hub for goods and services, and then it produced pearls. There was a pearl trade coming out of the region here. It was a connecting hub between India and what was that whole region and the Middle East, which we know as the Middle East, which is the Levant. And trade has always been part of what the region does. Now, of course, oil and exploration of oil, discovery of oil accelerated that growth. But Dubai has always been built on trade, and the regions has always been very, very strong in trade. And if we want to move away from trade, it's also uh, built today on movement because with Emirates Airlines, with multiple airports and more being built, as you saw yourself, the UAE is really positioning itself as a hub for movement of goods, movement of people, but also movement of knowledge and movement of future ideas. Um, the leadership of Dubai is really driving the future out of Dubai and out of the UAE. Of the Dubai Future Foundation. You went to the Museum of the Future, which is not just a museum, but it's a central hub for all things future. In October, there's going to be 400 futurists coming from all over the world to a big future event happening within the Dubai Future Foundation. And they're calling it the Dubai Future Forum. And they were going to talk about the future of the world, not only the future of the UAE. You have the Dubai Future Accelerators. And so the under the inspiration of the leadership of the region, the future is what everybody talks about on a daily basis here. And so if you look at how Dubai Global Connect, for example, empowers that, Dubai Global Connect is bringing the world of trade together. But you also have an immense uptake in NFTs. So Dubai, the UAE is the number 4 place in the world. So they rank 4th in the world in the ownership of NFTs. We have entire police departments which are becoming on the metaverse now. So the adoption of future trends and future technologies is happening at breakneck speed here in the region. And so if you say how okay, Randy, great, but how can we be part of that? How can we be part of all that growth and all that's coming in the future. Um, in plain English and street English, you got to put your back into it, as simply as this. So you got to, pick yourself up and set up here, physically be set up here. And you guys are already taking the first step towards that by setting up your legal entity within the Dubai Global Connect. But also you have to connect with local experts. This market is not an easy market. It's misconceived as being low hanging fruit. It's absolutely not low hanging fruit. It's a tough market. It's a very mature market. It's a very fragmented market. And it's not only fragmented from a consumer and an audience fragmentation, but also physically. So when you look at the region here, you say, wow, there's almost 400 million people, but it's different countries. The UAE is not Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not Kuwait, is not Qatar, is not Bahrain, is not Lebanon, is not Egypt, is not Morocco, is not Tunisia, etc., etc. So every one of those countries is a sovereign territory in and all by itself. Um, for businesses that like to scale up, countries like the US are amazing because you set up something in New York and you're in the West Coast, within 6 months, and in between you're in 200 cities. And it's smoother, it's much easier. There's a homogeneity to your customer base. And the region here, we're so fragmented, we're so diverse that unless you really have a deep knowledge and understanding of how things happen here and the consumers and what their likes and preferences are, it's very easy for you to come in and gain traction within a reasonable frame of time. You also have to be ready to invest heavily. I've seen a lot of brands over time come and try to, quote unquote, dip their toes. It doesn't work. You need to come in. You need to come in with your eyes wide open. You need to do your research. You need to have the right conversations with the right people. You have to really make sure that you're adding value to the region here. And that's what's going to put you on the path to success. As someone who's been in the Middle East for so long, it's not boring for me to go and do shopping in Europe, because every single brand on every single street, if you go to Paris, London, Milan, exists already here. And not only do they exist here, but they exist here in a much bigger, newer, more advanced setup than they would be in London. If you go to the Dubai Mall here and you go to the Nike store, it's a little, it's 3, 4, it's massive. It's huge. It's way better than many of the Nike. I mean, the only one that's better than it would be the Nike store in New York, I imagine. Or if you go and see the Apple store that's here in the Dubai Mall, it's the stores. We do things at such a high level and at such a high standard here that it's no longer that market that it was in the 80s and 90s, where if you're a great brand, you just set up shop here and you would work simply because you're a great brand. That doesn't exist anymore. You really have to find a way where you're adding value to the region's consumers and to the region here. Otherwise, you really won't succeed. Quite a bit of research. You have to do quite a bit of market studies, and really be invested in your growth and development here.
Great insight, Randy. We appreciate your expertise and sharing your experiences, and hope we get to connect again when you come to the US. Where can people find you if they want to connect?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. And we can take it from there. Randy Helou, Helou, and would love to have a conversation. Peter, thank you very much. This has been a really, really good conversation. It's great to see the enthusiasm, and it's great to see that openness and curiosity that you guys have. And we'd love to connect further and more once you guys come over here.